Alrighty, welcome to another episode of A Talk of Opportunity. I'm here with Andrew.
Hey.
Hey. And today we are talking about type of players and player etiquette. Damn it. Table etiquette. I think I'm going to leave that tick there.
Yeah, that's right after I say shit, that's where you play the music. Jose.
Yes.
You've been DMing for a while now, and obviously you know about the different types of players, kind of like the categories they fall in.
Yes.
Things like the power gamer, rules lawyer, actor, instigator, so on and so forth.
Yes.
Out of these types, which have you dealt with the most, and how have they been at the table for you?
Actually, one of my favorite ones, one of our friends, one of my players, Jeremy, he falls into a little bit of the thinker. And it's funny because it was the last person I expected to be the thinker of the group. And this happened a lot in Tomb of Annihilation. Somehow, he would always just kind of like, so the group will just stumble upon a puzzle or some sort of like trap or something they have to get through, right? And while the group was just kind of like trying to figure out how to like, they'll be shouting commands. Oh, I'm going to do this. Oh, I'm going to grab the axe and put it here. I'm going to like step on this square, like blah, 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 blah. They're going crazy. They're failing miserably. This player would just lay back and say nothing for about like a solid, like good 5-10 minutes, real life 10 minutes. And then look at me straight in the eye and tell me the exact solution to the puzzle. Usually within like 1 or 2 tries. And it just blows my mind because ever since, and I remember this clearly in not Tomb of Annihilation, Storm King's Thunder. Everybody was going crazy trying to open this portal. He just like figured it out, like almost instantly. So he falls into the archetype of the thinker, right? He's kind of like, and he took that role, and through the 2 campaigns we played together, he was just kind of like, just lay back, take all the information in, and then just solve the damn puzzle. And it was great. He will always get inspiration for that. Another one of the players I deal a lot with is I guess you could call it the Watcher, because they're part of the group, but they're just kind of like in the background, and they're very chill, and always kind of like they always, for the most part, they play a lot of the support class, which allows other people to be a little bit more extreme with their actions, and they usually like to resolve and just kind of like be like that. The side, I don't want to say like the cheer section for the group, and always encouraging everybody and coming out with funny remarks and encouraging everybody to do their thing. And these are some of like the most obscure type of players that I've had on my table. And I know a lot of people talk about rule lawyers and all this other type of tropes. And luckily for me, I haven't had to deal with any extremes, which makes me happy. One of my players, it's you could say she falls into a little bit of a power gamer, right? Because she likes to optimize her characters, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, because she actually makes her characters very interesting. Like while they're strong, they know what they're gonna do. She knows what she's gonna do with the character, and she really knows how to play the character she created. She's not obnoxious about it. Like some people can be like. You have the classic power gamer who just wants to like min-max the character to the most optimal point, and as a side effect, it brings that character into a little bit of like if you think about it, like a little bit of the lax action hero, and it's just this superhero who just can't do anything wrong, and it's really good at hitting things. There's no flaws with the character, and it can be a little bit of annoying. Luckily for me, I haven't had to deal with that. Most of my players are very much middle of the road, and they like to. They all have their own unique flavors, but they don't take it to the extreme. Haven't had any rule lawyers or anything like that. If anything, my player Howard, he just helps out because he's been playing role-playing games for a longer time than I have. So when I was struggling with some rules, he was really quick to look him up and pull him up and just kind of like help me out that way. But he always recognized that if I was like if it took too long and I just like, oh, screw it, it's going to be this way, he didn't argue. He didn't say anything, oh, rules are written or whatever. I know that there's players out there who are very what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Conflictive.
I know. Oh, geez. Wow, I'm pulling a blank too, but I know exactly what you're talking
about. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like they will argue with the DM, and at the end of the day, the DM has the last word. He is the god of the and then I truly believe that keep the game moving forward.
You're talking about the type of rules lawyer that doesn't. That believes the rule of cool is not just wrong, it's like heresy.
Right. Yes. I haven't dealt with that. So happy.
Confrontational.
Yes, confrontational. I also have another player, Alex, who is a great actor. He falls into that type. He builds a really creative character, and through the whole campaign he will play that character really well, in the sense that I remember for Tomb of Annihilation, he had a tattoo, and every time something would happen, he will add to that tattoo, and he will keep bringing that up. He wouldn't do voices or anything like that, but he will portray the character really, really well. You know what I mean?
We've already discussed how in the last episode, doing voices does not equal good role playing.
Exactly. And like in Storm King's Thunder, his character just had like a massive amount of necklaces because he was just obsessed with necklaces. So he will just like keep taking necklaces from like if I will ever mention that they were in a room and there was like a drawer, he will always ask if there was any jewelry around, and he will just take them and put them on. That was like his thing. So like through the whole campaign, he at the end of the campaign, he was Mr. T essentially.
or him playing a small Drax obsessed with bones.
With bones, exactly. Like he's really good at doing that. So I will say that he really falls into that actor archetype, which I really enjoy them for doing all that stuff. And again, it doesn't take it to the extreme that he's obnoxious about it. And again, I don't want to discourage pushing forward with your role playing and your gaming and but it can easily, and I know there's people out there who can take it to the extreme.
I think it's just important for people to realize that for every trope there is a good and a bad side.
Right. And I mean everything in moderation, or read the room, read the table. But I think those are just the main ones I've dealt with. I haven't experienced any horror stories. Like if I ever had an account in the subreddit D&D horror stories, I will never post anything there. I'm very lucky when it comes to that. But yeah, I know there's a tons of different player types out there. For the most part, I will say that they fall within like the little bit of power gamer in there. The thinker, the watcher, and the actor. I think that's my group. You're
very lucky to not have some of the more dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. Which and which reminds me, I've heard stories of your early gaming, and how your table was back in the day of 3.5. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about that and the listeners too? Like, how was that player dynamic? Like, did it work? What type of players did you have to deal with? Because you weren't DMing back then; you were actually a player.
I did. I kind of teased the idea of DMing a bit, but nothing ever came to fruition.
Yeah.
But when I was playing 3.5, and keep in mind, this was when we were teenagers, so
Right.
Much younger, obviously much less mature. So the dynamic that we dealt with, it wasn't so much like, is this player going to be good in role playing? Is this player going to be good in the dungeon and stuff like that? Well, actually, that's not too terribly true. More like our characters just kind of took a back seat to the role playing thing, and it was mainly combat and exploration. Like those are the two things that our players, I remember our players putting an emphasis on. And we had two different tropes of players, because we did have the power gamer. We almost all of us were instigators, because because the games we played, they were more like comedic, chaotic, kind of almost all of us were playing some sort of like chaotic neutral, and even when we did play lawful good, we skewed it in a way to where it's like, it's technically lawful, it's technically good, but well, okay, like just give me an example. I remember playing a campaign where I was a paladin who was like a constable for like a desert city kind of a thing.
Uh-huh.
And we were supposed, because we were all cops. That was the idea, that we were cops, and we were investigating like an import of slaves in a city where slaves were illegal, right? So when we found our first suspect, I told the DM, I'm going to ask him this question to like get some information out of him. And the DM started talking, saying, well, he says this. And I go, wait, before he says anything, I'm going to hit him across the face with my sap. Which is a leather bag full of ball bearings. And one of the other players goes, that's not lawful good. And I asked the DM, are slaves legal here in the city? And he goes, no. And so is this guy bad for bringing slaves in? And he's like, yes. So I'm like, so technically is what, and when I'm doing something lawful good, right? He goes, yeah, I'd say it's lawful good. So like, that was kind of more the dynamic that we were dealing with there. We had one player who, I guess you could say he was the power gamer, but he was also the wild card. Like, the best way I can describe him is that he was the Mr. Blonde to our Reservoir Dogs. like it'd always be like, okay, keep an eye on him because he's going to do something stupid. But the thing about it is that he would always succeed whatever he was doing in the dumbest way possible. And
that's my favorite type of success.
Like tasks, like the task failed successfully, kind of a thing.
That's my life motto, man.
And the thing about it is that he was a monster in combat. Like he pulled some stuff off that, like, I couldn't even tell you. Like I to this day I still don't know how he did it, but it was all legal. He just went through all the resources, and he's like, nope, I have. He was the type of guy that was at level 5 was able to pull off like 30 damage off like one hit kind of a thing. Ooh. Yeah, exactly. But the thing about it is, because he was the wild card, it would be something like, oh, the trail, leads this way. And he goes like, nah, I'm going to go the opposite direction, see what happens. And so that one player that I have in mind, whenever I'm making like adventures and stuff like that, I'm always like, how would he break this and how can I prevent it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the dynamic, like I said, because it was more of a combat based thing, it was more like, okay, we have a guy that is really good at physical damage. And then we have one guy that can do like magic damage. We have a guy that can do range damage, a guy that specializes in taking out this type of enemy and stuff like that. And so eventually, and because the group we were playing with was rather large, it was like 5 to 8 people at a time, depending.
Holy crap!
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yes, depending on who could make it and whatnot. So you had a lot of people you would have 3 wizards, but one would be just damage, one would be just like support, and one would be just like utilities and stuff like that. So that was the dynamic that we played with, because it was very much more like a video game kind of mentality.
Yeah. Right.
Which the DM supported, so that's why we went with it. But there were some parts where role playing like was there, but it was not the main focus. It wasn't like how it kind of is now with me. It was a much more like, let's just get to the fighting kind of a thing.
Right.
And yeah, so
blazing. Yeah.
It did work only because we had that DM. If we had like a different DM, it would have completely fell apart and we would have been someone's nightmare. But because we were all kind of on this,
your nightmare.
Well, yeah, it would. If I had the DM now, the group that we had then, I would have ripped my hair out. It's like I can't tell you how much things have changed for me in that regards. But like I said, it's because we were all in the same wavelength. That's why everything was kind of kosher for us.
That's cool. That's really that's. I mean, if everybody's on the same playing field, I think it's fine.
Exactly, and that's there. And like I said, it's surprisingly, when there was time for role playing, we did do that really well. But there was always comedic undertones, which, I mean, D&D kind of falls naturally into comedy at certain points. But even then, like I would say, like right now, during like let's just take Curse of Strahd, for instance. There's a lot of atmosphere. There is moments where it can be scary, but there's also moments of levity. Yeah. Whereas when we were playing, it was almost always, what's the funniest outcome I can think of? Like, how can I pull this off? Goofiest, funniest, most, hey, my name is Throgar and this is Jackass kind of, kind of ways of doing it. So yeah, that's mainly what we dealt with. However, we also because the group was so large, we also did deal with not a lot of, but a good amount of improper table etiquette. But just to kind of give the listeners an idea, what would, in your words, what would you describe proper and improper etiquette at the table?
Oh man. Well, I would say so. Okay, this is gonna be kind of like a self-answering question with the proper and improper, because the improper is just like, don't do what the proper one is. But it all starts with the very basics of just don't be a dick, In my table, I think one of the most important ones is always listen to the DM. For the most, they're the ones that are putting a lot of effort into bringing the group together. So like, always listen to the DM. Don't argue. Don't try to make it miserable for them. They already had a really hard time putting all this stuff together for you. There's other stuff out there. One of the most basic ones for me, don't use your cell phones on the table. Like, there's nothing more discouraging that you're trying to tell a story as a DM, and then you see your players on their phone. And it makes me feel like an old person, like when you were in high school and your teacher would be like, get off your phone, like put your phones away. But like, your whole goal is to have the players have a good time. Allow the players to have a good time. And when they're on their phones, it just makes you feel like you fail. So that's very important to me. There's a lot of simple stuff that you can just do when you're invited into a game. Like if you're going to somebody's house, bring food, bring a snack, contribute to the game day, other simple things is, like, don't make a mess, like, keep your table, you're sharing a table with somebody else. Don't just put all your papers and all your crap all over the place. Like, keep a little area for yourself, Other things, and I think this would be really helpful for people, is just always understand that the DM knows more than you do. That is just bare minimum. Like, don't try to, if you feel like you know more about vampires and you're playing Curse of Strahd, don't assume that you know more than the DM about vampires for Curse of Strahd. Just because the DM has the liberty to change whatever the hell they want to change. So they will know more than you do, even though you have a whole library about vampires, Always use your creativity, like this is the time for you to shine on the table. Like, bring it, don't just be in the background the whole time, leaning back on the couch or whatever. It could be an active member of the party, of the group, not a party as in like a group as in a bunch of humans. But those for me two of the main one. I mean, a couple of the main ones. Other than older stuff, like, I'm pretty sure there's lists out there, but like, know your character. That's kind of like a little bit of a, I understand for new players who are just like first time playing, but like, when you come into a table, like, know what you're playing, know what your character is good at, let other players shine, let them have their turn. This is something I struggle with as a player. But let them lead the conversation. Let them, you don't always have to be the first one in line in marching order. Take a step back. You're here as a group, not as an individual. They're not there to support you. Like, don't cut other players off when they're talking. Don't try to correct them. Don't be that guy who's like, oh, that's not what a wizard would do, or that's not what a rogue would do type situation. Like let other people have their moment.
If you don't know, that might be like, that's not what a wizard would do. Yeah, well, that's how my wizard does it.
Right.
Kind of a thing.
Exactly. Another one is very simple. The DM's world is final. Word, not world. The DM word is final. For as much as you want to argue rules, if the DM says it is a certain way, it is that way. Don't try to change it. But by the same token, the DM has to keep track that if they say that something is this way, then through the whole campaign, it should be that way. But don't try to argue. You're here to have fun. And I always try to, whenever my players come to the table, I always try to have, to make it very clear, like, what I'm expecting from them. Like, I usually am not like the babysitter of always asking them to put their phone away. But if the players are trying to be on their phone, I will always try to just make something interesting happen, or try to have an encounter or a situation happen faster, so that whoever player is on the phone turns comes around faster. Another thing that I try to do is that I don't control their I don't control their characters. So I can I only control the NPCs, and I can make those NPCs do things to grab the attention of those players. Whenever a player brings food to the table and it's delicious, I encourage it. I always try to well, I do get excited about food, but I try to make it very obvious that I'm very happy that they're there. Like when they bring their own dice, I always try to encourage in a positive way good behavior. I am not gonna yell. I am not gonna be a dick about it. A couple of times I thought about bringing a basket out with like a little sticker that says cell phones, just to but I don't want to be that way. I think Andrew, you stopped me from doing that at one point.
Yeah, there was one time where you're like, should I just have like a cell phone basket? I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and looking back, like we're all adults. So there's a lot that goes into keeping your table happy. Having good table etiquette, just the basics. Be engaging. Know that you're there with other people to have fun together, not to outshine somebody else. The DM is always right. No matter what happens, the DM is always right. Actually, I think I'll change that. The DM is not always right, but the DM word is final. And just because I feel like the DM is always right sounds like the customer is always right, which I hate that. That's not true.
Oh, I mean, because sometimes the DM has to make a ruling that it's either not covered in the book or it's not covered very clearly in the book.
Right.
And in order just to kind of keep the flow going, like, okay, we're just going to do this, and that's it,
Yeah, and it also has to do with so, like you said, to keep flowing. Like sometimes looking at a rule in the book, it's a lot of work. Or looking at it online, sometimes you find two different answers, and then arguing starts, and then back and forward, and then you just wasted 20 minutes of gameplay looking for the stupid rule. So
Right.
game is always right when it comes to that type of stuff.
Or sometimes it's a situation that's like so specific that there's really not a rule for it. So you just have to make one up on the fly.
Yeah. And luckily I haven't had to deal with. I think the most I ever dealt with was just like people being late, but like that's life. What can you do? As long and I always know that they're trying to be there on time. It's good, and they're not always late. Like if I ever noticed that one of my players was like always, like we always play, back when we used to play physical games at noon, right? But then one player will always be late and constantly late. I think the only thing I would do is ask him, like, hey, would you want us to move the time forward? Like, why are you always late if you say you're going to be there at a certain time? Just trying to understand the situation, because having people waiting for you is not fun for anybody.
Right.
So being on time, but I luckily haven't had to deal with a lot of like bad table etiquette.
I think one of the if I may, I think one of the big things in terms of table etiquette that a lot of people from time to time become guilty of and they don't really recognize it is metagaming.
Yes.
Because there'll be like a situation or something like that where you're fighting a troll and your characters have never encountered a troll, but you as a player knows from a previous adventure that trolls are weak to fire. Well, you kind of have to, just kind of sit on your hands there a bit and say, oh no, I'm gonna, try something.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like you can't be like, suddenly my character has an epiphany that, even though he's never encountered a troll before, he knows they're weak to fire or something like that.
Right. And a player should know, like, hey, because it's hard not to do, but like, if you know that it's fire, try to make it interesting in the story. Like, hey, there's a torch. I'm gonna, I give tools for the DM to to react to. Like I drop my torch here or whatever, so the DM can be like, oh, the troll seems to be scared of the fire or whatever. Then you can be like, oh, my character wants to shoot him with fire arrows, see what happens, and then kind of like role playing in and making your metagaming a little bit more interesting than just like, hey, I know that they're weak to fire, so I'm gonna use all my fire spells.
Well, yeah, exactly. I always found that a really good way to sort of skirt the issue of metagaming is being like, if you encounter a pretty common enemy, something like that, just have the DM say, hey, would I know, like, what's the deal with this enemy, Right. And then the DM like, oh, we'll roll a knowledge check and see, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's a very fair way of doing it. Because it gives tools for the DM to help you metagame officially, I guess you could say.
Yeah, well, I mean, or sort of justify having that knowledge.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah.
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, I was just finishing my, proper table etiquette. It's just don't be a dick. that's the short answer. Yeah.
And I think
I haven't had to deal with a lot of improper table etiquette, and I think deep down inside everybody knows how to behave as an adult. And you gotta be the person people want to be around. Um, and don't be a dick. Have you dealt with any improper table etiquette? Anything that has like ruined your game or ruined that specific session, and you just had to like do something about it? Because I personally haven't.
Yeah, I can actually. The thing about it is, I can actually think of 2 instances, and neither of the times I was the DM. Both the times, there was one time where I'm the player both these times, but there was one time where I was kind of the cause of ruining the session, and then there was another time where I watched the session kind of unfold. You get me?
Fall apart.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And the first instance was we were playing an adventure. If I remember correctly, we were supposed to be like prehistoric warriors trying to find something. I forget exactly what it was off the top of my head. And you can definitely tell the DM was this is the same DM that we played with before, but this time he was taking it kind of seriously. But none of us were. We were all like, because like the village was like on like a cliff or something like that. So he'd be like, oh, I'm going to throw myself off the cliff, and like die and crap like that. And eventually got to the point, like, it wasn't one thing. It was all just like a kind of a culmination of this idiocy where the DM like legitimately said, okay, look, I know this is like fun and games and stuff like that, but I put a lot of work into these things. Like, you know how hard it is to come up with an idea every week when you guys are constantly like dying and ruining the campaigns and stuff like that and blah, blah, blah. And essentially he went on like this like 10-15 minute long tirade about all the work he puts into it and whatnot. And then he left. Like, he legitimately just got up from the table and left and just kind of left us there at the table. And that was a real like eye-opening moment for me where especially, well, I mean, I want to say for everybody else too, but especially for me, we're like, man, we're assholes, and then after that we started taking it like more seriously. Like we were still having fun and doing like, kind of stupid, comedic stuff, but like we didn't try to have our characters commit suicide in the dumbest way possible.
Right.
Like we kind of started the give and take exchange started to happen where
there you go.
We would do something for the DM and he would do something for us, and that's when that like kind of respect got cemented on both sides of the screen. And I think for me that was a real big turning point to when I started taking the D&D more seriously, to where like, you know what, I really want to lean into this, like I want to, like if he's putting this much work into it, I should probably be doing that as well. And I remember,
it's just a matter of realizing and appreciating the amount of work that a DM puts into the story, and knowing that he's doing it for you.
And I think, and the thing about it is, I kind of got my reward for that when we were starting a new campaign. This was a legitimately new campaign. Like, we were starting over fresh, kind of a thing. Like the last one kind of ended more or less successfully, but we were just starting over. And I made a sorcerer, which was my favorite class in 3.5e. And he did the thing where he looked over all the classes because that's what he liked to do. That's what he did. So we respected it. That's fine. And he looked over my sorcerer, and I made sure to, like, I wanted to have arcane knowledge and like this kind of knowledge and these skills and whatnot. And I had like a good mix of combat and utility spells. And he goes, "Holy crap, you actually made a sorcerer worth playing," and I was like, yes. and eventually got to the point that like he didn't really take me under his wing, but like he would give me sort of like advice on how to DM, where he would say like, "Oh, it's the easiest thing in the world, but it's also the hardest thing in the world," kind of a thing.
Right.
And that's true. So that was kind of the resolution of that first incident, where we were all kind of part of the problem in terms of improper table etiquette. The second time, however, we actually had a player who I still can't believe to this day he would stoop this low. We actually had a player legitimately steal the DM's notes. And
oh man.
And I mean, and I don't mean like oh, he, kind of went through them real quick while the DM went to the bathroom or went to go grab Taco Bell or something. He like took them for days. Like they were gone for days and stuff like that. And like he took them home and read them. And what culminated was it was a pretty stereotypical adventure. We were in a village. We were trying to find out what was going on and yada, yada, yada. And it was supposed to lead up to, we were supposed to investigate the statue, and the statue led into a dungeon and whatnot, and yada, yada, yada. But we had to figure out how to like find the clues for the statue. Well, the cheater knew immediately, like very conveniently knew immediately what to do with the statue. He was like, oh, well, I'm going to investigate like the back of the statue, and oh, hey, look, there's a switch on the neck or something like that. I forget exactly what the solution was. But so what the DM did was that he just changed it to where it was a death chamber. and so the guy went in there, and his character, like he legitimately pulled a rocks fall, you die, no saving throws kind of a thing. And
man.
And the guy got so mad, got so like butthurt about it. He legitimately just packed up his things and left, and we didn't see him again after that.
Oh, dude.
But the thing about it is that because he stole his notes and stuff like that, the DM's like, well, we're just going to have to start another campaign next week or something like that. Like it just completely derailed the entire adventure for all of us. Yeah. So don't cheat. That's not cool.
Dude.
And something like if your DM is running like a published adventure, like what we're doing now and have been doing, don't look at the books. Just common courtesy. Don't read that stuff. So
damn, dude, that's crazy. Like, so a couple questions. Did the DM, when he found out, he just? I'm so. I think that was the best way to deal with it.
He knew right away who it was, because this guy was a really awful metagamer, and when I mean awful, I mean he was really obvious about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Like he would know exactly what the weakness of a monster is, despite the fact that none of his characters ever fought it, kind of a thing.
Right.
And it was one of those things where I forget exactly what happened, but like he was over at the DM's house to just kind of hang out because they were friends at that time. And when he left, the DM's like, I can't find my notes anywhere, kind of a thing. And we all kind of thought at the same time, like, oh, I bet you he took them, like, because that was our first immediate thought. That's how bad it was.
Damn.
And
that's
then
so dumb though. Like,
no. Here's the thing. And then the cheater came back a couple days later just to hang out again, and suddenly the notes popped up. Oh, look at that! How
convenient.
Yeah, exactly. And the DM was like, motherfucker, and like, how badly do you need to like, what's the word? Have a sense of accomplishment that you need to quote unquote win D&D,
Yeah. Except I'm just trying to think, like, what even is the point? Like, you're just like, I don't know. I guess some people just need to have that God knowledge, I guess. But like, what is the point? Like, that just ruins the whole point of D&D for me. Like, you're stealing somebody's notes, the DM's notes, and knowing what's going to happen. Then what's the point of playing?
There is none, because the fun for me as a player is seeing this stuff unravel,
right.
or seeing how our actions lead to certain consequences. But yeah, no, that was a big mark on that. Like, even the wild card guy who he wasn't a cheater, but he did almost try his best to break the world. Even he was like, dude, that's low. Like, that's no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother level, man. Like, that would be, I don't know, man. That's like a friendship ending type situation.
It's one of those things. It's like, if I ever found out a cheater was at my table, I'm like, oh, don't come back. Like,
right.
Like, because even if they like, oh no, I won't ever do it again. I'm like, dude, I can't trust you. Know? Like, I'm sorry, but
like, what is even the point?
Yeah, you know.
I just
especially
don't understand, man.
especially because now we're running games that are easily accessible. Like, it's one
Yeah.
thing to sneak into a DM's house and take their notes, but you can go to a bookstore,
Yeah.
and just and like, you don't even have to buy the book. You can just read it right then and there. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
But
and I can Google it, for the matter of fact.
exactly, you could probably, I wouldn't recommend it, but you could probably acquire
Yeah.
these books online. But it's like, it's still like, dude, come on, man. Like,
Yeah,
don't do
no,
that.
that's dumb, dude. I'm sorry. Like, that's just a bad. Oh man, yeah. No, even if I wasn't as angry as your DM probably was, like, I'm sorry, but like, I cannot have that player in my table.
I remember now, because it kind of jogged my memory. I remember that his character died, and he goes, the guy's name was Justin. He goes, Justin, I know you stole my fucking notes. he just like he just called him, like, he called him out, like, right then and there, like, at the table. Oh man, oh, good time.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way he could have handled that, to tell you the truth. Because I mean, he could have he could have like talked to him and not invited him to that specific session. He could have done a lot of other things, but your DM decided to just kill him straight up.
yeah, no, he publicly shamed him in front of everybody, and it even though it came at the cost of that campaign, it did exactly what we wanted to do, was just get rid of the problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, he never came back. So, and we were all the better for it. So,
damn, dude,
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
I cannot believe. I cannot. That's crazy. That's so.
Yeah,
I just don't understand it. I keep saying I don't understand it, but I don't understand it.
Right. Well, I mean, looking back on it now, I just kind of label it as like growing pains. Like, these were the things that we had to learn, more so the first incident rather than the second. Just like things that we had to learn, like, these things are not cool. Like, you know, even though we're all having fun and we're, you know, making dick jokes or whatever, like, there's still lines you can't cross. So,
most definitely.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, those are kind of the things that I dealt with. And one of the things that I was most worried about now that I'm DMing was always having that new player, you know, because you're like, what are they going to bring to the table? You know?
Yeah. And you had to deal with that.
Well, I mean, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, because I've been not very vocal, but I have been like, oh god, you know, because like I said, my experience has been tainted with the world breaker type character. Like, please don't do that. Please don't do that. but so far, introducing new players have actually been pretty successful. But in your experience, has like the kind of party dynamic ever really shifted introducing new people to the group?
I will have to say that it, not in an extreme way. You know, like we have a couple players jump in midway through a campaign. I mean, you were one of them. You know, but in your case, so I want to start with your case, because you came in pretty late on the Tomb of Annihilation wagon there. But
well, see, here's the thing. I came in, immediately started kicking ass. You know,
yeah.
It was like the first day in prison. I had to pick on the biggest guy and beat him up.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. You totally didn't suffocate in a room or anything.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Or activated an explosion or anything.
I don't know what you're talking
about. No, I mean the party dynamic, I think it pretty much stayed the same. I feel like every time we add a new player, a new member to the party, to the group, I've had the fortune that it just add more good than bad. Actually, I don't think it's ever added anything bad, because your chemistry with the group instantly flourished. I remember you were a little shy at first as to what to do and what role to play as a character, but you immediately took the role of the big you know, chunk of man that punches things on the face, and you played it pretty well. You made everybody laugh. and they love you right away. So it wasn't a lot of what's it called, growing pains, or like having to teach special rules that are only on this table or anything like that. Like you got along pretty well, but you had plenty of experience with D&D. You were very respectful. That was you. Right now we have a new player. She's playing a rogue, and then she's a little bit on the quiet side. And she does need the first few sessions she needed a little bit of help with, like, mainly I think it was Roll20. But everybody needs to learn Roll20. That's just kind of like it's unavoidable. You're gonna have to teach it, especially even if you saw a tutorial in the middle of the game. I still can't find things in that stupid UI. But she's there. She's nothing bad. She's always, man, I know I keep saying that I've lucked out, but like, I guess I just know how to pick my friends.
Yeah, no, you've been really lucky, believe me.
Yeah.
Well, in the case of the new player in Curse of Strahd, it's not really something I picked up right away, but if say for instance, like, they're kind of quiet and they don't want to be in the spotlight, I don't try to make them be that, but I still want to make sure that they have moments where they shine a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just kind of one of those things where, and I didn't really feel like the party dynamic shifted a lot, or in a really bad way. But I just wanted to make sure that, hey, this is a new person, we'll give them a couple sessions to kind of stretch their legs, figure things out, whatnot, and definitely help them with whatever they need.
Right.
But also, if they don't want to be in the forefront, that's totally fine by me. If they want to be in the background, that's cool.
Yeah.
But she's
no, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just saying she has pretty recently even has shown some moments where she kind of takes the reins of a situation and comes up with like these kind of not intrinsic but creative solutions. Like when she used her Kinku's mimicry ability to talk Victor out of his room by imitating his father, and the group learns how to deal with a teenager. Stuff like that. Like this was her moment. So like, yes, please go do it. Like,
Yeah, and I've been lucky and I guess it's just because the people I hang out with are very similar. Like, they have same taste. So introducing somebody like that to the current group is not usually a big deal. I'll be a little bit more worried if it was like a brand new person I never met before and they just happen to tag along.
Right. Well, it's always whenever you say, hey, I'm going to bring somebody new to the table, I always ask you the one question: are they cool? And I don't mean like, are they like slick or anything like that. I'm like, are they going to be a dick? Like, do I have to?
Right?
So
yeah, no, I don't think I will ever bring somebody like that to the table. Well, at least not me knowing that. Like, if they develop those things on the table, it's a different story.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but I didn't know this side of you type situation. But yeah, no, I haven't had too much of a bad experience introducing new players. I'm always happy to bring more people to the table. If it was up to me, I mean, my first game was 7 players. It was a slog, but it worked. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the biggest issue we had was just with Roll20. Just teaching a new tool to somebody, and them being a fairly new player to the game as well. Like, having stuff like, roll this specific attack, this specific thing, just teaching those little things of what Roll20 is capable of. I think that was the biggest drawback, but I think that goes for everybody, not just for the new player. Talking about Roll20 and our favorite virtual tabletop tool.
Our favorite browser-based virtual tabletop that totally doesn't crash at least once a session.
Yeah, right. No, but like, talking about that, is there any etiquette, table etiquette, or table in quotation marks etiquette for Roll20? Is there anything that's different from Roll20 that to an actual regular table? Like, have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, actually, I have, because that's a much different like set of rules than when you're at a table. Because that's one of those things where, well, let's just go over the basics. So for table etiquette, I feel for Roll20, one of the basic ones is that if there's a lot of noise going on in your background, kind of mute your mic.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I'm probably the worst one about this because, it has a lot of dogs and they bark at the drop of a hat. So whenever I hear them barking in the background, I always kind of mute my mic just so you guys don't hear yipping and yapping for like 5 or 10 minutes, depending.
Right.
I think another pretty important thing is try to figure out how to use Roll20 as best as possible. And that's obviously something that it's best to have somebody go over it with you, like somebody more knowledgeable. But because Roll20 is the way it works, it's completely different than pen and paper. So you definitely need to figure out, hey, I need to click on this for an attack roll, but then click on this for damage. And
right. Yeah. That confuses a lot of people.
Especially damage rolls, because in Roll20 to do a damage roll, you have to click on the name of the attack in the chat window, which I mean, once you get it down, it's understandable, but it's not very intuitive. So that's a big one. Also learning what you can and can't click on.
Yeah.
Another thing I would say in terms of table etiquette is, especially this especially goes for what I'm experiencing on my end, is if your character token is on a map, like in a room, unless the DM says you can, don't try to leave that room, kind of a thing.
Oh, okay. Right.
I
thought you were saying.
What?
I thought you were going to mention when we start moving our tokens around so you can't move our tokens.
No. That's another thing entirely. But it's something it's like in one of the sessions, or what was that, in Tomb of Annihilation, when you said we're going to be going by these rules, where if you move your token here, that's what your character is doing. So it's definitely kind of a thing, like, just sort of respect that idea.
Right.
But also if you're in a place that has like a lot of locked rooms or something like that, like, don't zing your token around all over the place and, potentially spoil yourself on content, which is something I need to work on, because I need to work with the door layers and stuff. Right. But because I haven't quite figured that out yet, like, just give me the benefit of the doubt here.
Not your fault, Andrew.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it makes sense. Like, yes, you may have the ability to like fly all over the map, but just, like, why would you do that? Like, just be part of the moment. Be where the people are. Be where you're supposed to be doing. Just don't be hovering over every single room trying to figure it out. Like, oh, this is interesting. Like, just.
Or at the very least, if you want to explore a part, just say, hey, I want to see what's behind this door here. Right. and then we'll role play that situation out. And that's fine. Like, just as long as you have justification. But if you're just going to zip your character token around, like, please stop. Are there any things I'm missing? Is there anything you would like to add to that?
No, I think you nailed pretty much everything, other than the usual stuff. Like, don't be late. Oh well, I get that goes with the muting part. Like, if you're eating on Roll20, which one of our players sometimes has a snack, and she's pretty good about muting her mic, so we don't hear you chewing. Because I do that. I drink water really loudly, and I don't mute my mic. But yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much it. I think one of the other ones, though, and I think it has to do with the same. It will be the put your phone away version of Roll20. It's like, yes, you're in a browser. Try to stay in Roll20. Don't be going
don't
watching
go on YouTube or anything
videos
like
or
that. Or
Facebook and scrolling everywhere. We can tell when the screen changes on the webcam. If you're looking up rules or whatever, that's fine. But usually you can find everything in Roll20, especially if one of your players or DM has bought the player's handbook. You can just type in the rule. You can type in the rule on Roll20 on the compendium, and it should pop up for the most part. Just because you can find a lot of things on the internet, and you may spoil yourself if you're looking for the thing.
Now this might be a bit of a hot take, but I would honestly say, kind of be a bit more lenient on the no cell phones rule, specifically for cell phones. The only reason why I'm saying that is because we are on an online thing. Like sometimes we'll have to like use like the Facebook Messenger to be like, hey, like I can't quite see you guys, or something like that, or in my like you might be looking up a rule or something like that. I mean, like it's okay if you use your phone every now and then to kind of for that kind of thing, but don't be on your phone the entire time as well. You know?
I was more leaning towards and I'm gonna go with an extreme here, but you're on Roll20 with your friends, and then you pull up RuneScape on browser and start playing on another screen.
Right. That's that's just one that's disrespectful.
Yeah, and we want you to be part of the adventure. Like, be involved. Don't be, oh my god, I hate it when it's like you think the person is paying attention, and then they're like, oh, where are we at? Like, oh,
yeah,
it burns.
But also, I think another thing about Roll20 is if you have if you have to take like a phone call, or there's like, oh wait, there's somebody at my door real quick, just let the party know, and just give them like, hey, you can just go on without me for this part, kind of a thing, while you step away. Obviously mute your mic or whatever you have to do.
Right. I like how one of our players does it. He tends to like step off to, I don't know, cook or do something, but he has wireless headphones. So the whole time he's like cooking or doing whatever he's doing, he's just listening to us talk, and he just responds. But then all you see on his webcam is the empty chair.
Oh my god!
Or even better, sometimes the cat is just like in the background. It's like, whoa.
That has freaked me out more than once. Or we'll be like, is he still there? He's like, yeah, I'm still here. Like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. No, it's great. But, but no, I agree with that. Also, and I don't think this applies to our group, but be sensitive that your webcam is always on. And if something's, you're going to do something or whatever, just if you don't want people to see it, just, turn off your webcam.
Another big one is let people know if they're like having like audio issues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like for the DM.
Yeah.
So
every now and then you start talking, and then all you see is everybody on the webcams just pointing at their headphones. Yeah. And you're not looking, so you just keep talking, and it's like, wait. It's great.
Yeah. So that's when you like shoot a message over Messenger, or you type something in on the chat saying like, hey, you've muted your mic, moron. Which I have done more than once. I've accidentally muted my mic halfway through talking. And
Yep.
So
yep. Yeah, talking about tokens and stuff, just because segues. And I hate the fact that we play online because I can't purchase this kind of stuff. Did you see that Icons of the Realms is releasing a Volos and Mordecanians miniature set?
Well, I have not. Please inform me on this. Okay,
so I work for a game store, so I get to like see all these little things as soon as they come out, whatnot. But if you're familiar with the Icons of the Realm miniature sets by WizKids, is every book they come out with a booster set. I mean, not boosters. Yeah, they come out with a set of miniatures specific for those books. So there's one for each one of the adventures for the. But they haven't really done, other than the Volos. Not Volos. other than the monster manual, which is essentially just their basic monsters, and the player's handbook races. They haven't really done any specific for any of the extended books, and they're putting together Volos and Mordekainen's foes into a set. And these are just like Magic the Gathering. You buy a box, and it comes, I believe, with 4 small miniatures and 1 big one. And let me tell you, in the past year or so, WizKids has stepped up their games because their miniatures look fantastic.
I'm actually checking it out right now. The Elder Brain is gorgeous.
Yes. Well, the Elder Brain is a premium one. So you buy that separately and you get all of that stuff in that box. There's no mystery on that one.
Still, there's the Alhoon, which looks awesome.
Yeah, they look great. I know, they look fantastic. Part of my job is to photograph the miniatures and put them on the website. And let me tell you that miniatures can be painted very wrong. And when I say wrong, I mean like eyeballs, one by the cheek and one by the forehead. And it makes it look ridiculous. But for some reason, when it comes to the Dungeons and Dragons miniatures or the Pathfinder miniatures, they always kill it with a paint job.
Really do. This, like, I'm looking at this one for the Deathclaw.
Yeah.
It's like it just sprung it, like it's exactly how it looks in the book.
Yeah. They get all the little details right, like especially like when the characters have tattoos on them. They did. I don't know how they do this, man. I really think a person with a brush just painting those tattoos on. You know, like you can't really do that in mass production. But yeah, it's pretty great. They're you can buy. I think they usually retail for $16. And they're pretty great because, like I told you, they bring 4 little ones. You get 4 monsters, and when I mean little, I mean like not like a small version of a monster. No, like they're up to scale. But then you get like a big monster, so like a large monster and up, like to scale in each one of those boxes. So you can get some pretty cool stuff. Just saying.
I'm checking it out right now, and it really makes me long for the days when we played on tabletops.
Yeah, man, because I think for Storm King's Thunder, I bought a bunch of these, and I got some really cool giants. Each box came with a giant, and I still have some of them. I think I sold one of the Irmer, which is like the most expensive. I sold it and bought like 3 more boxes with the money I got. It's a vice. You just keep buying it.
There's something to be said about the dungeon master standing up from their position, you know, where they're seated, grabbing a miniature and just plunking it in the middle of the table, saying, "That's what you see."
Yes.
You know?
I miss that so much. Yeah, because you know the tokens in Roll20 are great, but you don't get that physical scale.
Yeah, you don't get that sense of like build up.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. But yeah, they just announced these, I think, last week. I don't know when they're coming out, actually. Let me see. They are coming out, or the expected release is December 4th.
They are coming soon.
No, because they always said expected release because WizKids have this weird release schedule. Like sometimes they just release them randomly, like 3 or 4 days before they're supposed to be out. But yeah, so go to your local store and keep an eye out for them. They're looking pretty sweet.
Stock your local store.
Yes. What do you say? Stock your local store?
Yes. Constantly harass the employees about the miniatures.
Yeah, always. Yeah, now I'm lucky. I have a cool stuff games down the road, and I'm always like looking at like whatever board games coming in and all the stuff that is like all the new stuff, all the new shiny things. My precious.
Yeah, no, that's one of those things. Just like, man, just for one campaign, I wish we can kind of go back to the old days.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, man.
It is. Oh my gosh, it's so much work. I would never do it, but still. Speaking of tokens and miniatures and stuff like that, I have recently, just yesterday, actually, at the time of this recording, have played the Dark Souls board game.
Ooh. I didn't even know there was a board game until recently.
Yeah, it's actually, it's fairly popular because it was a Kickstarter program, right? That like immediately took off, and like all the stretch goals were met within days of it. But it's also kind of known for being incredibly expensive because it's
Go ahead. Sorry.
Because the base game itself is $120.
Yeah. That's usually how it is for Kickstarters with miniatures.
But these miniatures are awesome looking because they look exactly like, like how the artwork does. And they're not painted though. That's the only problem. They are a grayscale, but they look exactly like how they look in the video game.
Nice. And not being painted is not a problem because a lot of people who buy these, they buy them to paint them.
But it wasn't really a problem for us because, like I said, it is a board game. It's almost like a tabletop. It's very close to being a tabletop. Because how it is for anyone that's not familiar with Dark Souls, because I don't know if you've been living under a rock or not, but it's an action RPG game that's known for being brutally difficult. Not brutally difficult, but just difficult and fair. So it's a lot of single player experiences. However, the board game, it does focus on a party dynamic. And so there can only be 4 players. There's a maximum of 4 players. So we found out after last night's game, you kind of have to pick your characters carefully. Because I played a warrior. Teresa played a pyromancer. One of her friends played the thief class, and the other friend played the joke character, which was the deprived, which means they start out with a loincloth and a club, and that's it.
That's an actual option?
It is an option. And it's an option in the video game too, where that's kind of like the joke class.
That's amazing.
Right, and we learned very early on, probably shouldn't have done that. So the thing about it is that the way the game is played, it does kind of follow a sort of semi-initiative order where all of the enemies will go first. Okay, well, hold on, wait. Let me start over from the beginning. So the game is a dungeon crawl where you will lay down the dungeon tiles beforehand, and you'll set down what's called encounter cards. That it's randomized, so you don't really know. It's just based on difficulty level, so you don't know what you're going to encounter first in there. So how it works is that you lay down these dungeon tiles, you lay down the encounter cards on these dungeon tiles, and then you have a mini boss tile. And so you have to go to these rooms, encounter whatever the encounters are, which it could be enemies, obstacles, traps, or all 3, including treasure. And then you get to the mini boss, you fight the mini boss, and then you lay out the dungeon again so you can get to the main boss. It's a very extensive setup. Because it took us, I'm not even kidding you, because just reading the rules and setting up the game, it took us 5 hours just to set it up. And again,
are you serious?
Legitimately, it took us 5 hours because there's a lot of setup to it. There's a lot of setup, and the rules are very extensive.
Wait, are you serious? 5 hours just to set up?
Well, for us to set up because we didn't know what we were doing. So
you're not exaggerating. 5 hours?
No, it legitimately took us 5 hours.
Oof, man.
Yeah. Well, because how that works is that you find treasure in rooms, right?
Right.
And so how that works is that you have a common treasure deck, which is like basic stuff like armor, shields, weapons, what have you. But then you also have to find, or you can find, character specific treasure, which is like a better version of their starting equipment, or like an item that they can use to help with their like abilities and stuff like that. So what you have to do is that you have to go through the cards, take out the character cards that you aren't using, put in the character cards that you are using, shuffle those and whatnot. Wow. And yeah, it's one of those things that, like, if you look it up, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of setup. But the way combat works, it's kind of like Betrayal in the House on the Hill, where so say for instance, you're fighting a hollow soldier, which is a basic enemy. They have a +2 to physical resistance, but a +0 to magical resistance. Your weapon is an axe, which gives you 2 damage dice. So what you do is that you would roll these 2 damage dice, which the basic damage dice, there's basic, transposed, and legendary damage dice. Okay. So, but if you have basic equipment, you roll basic dice. You have transposed dice, you roll the transposed dice, so on and so forth. So the basic damage dice, there's 2 blanks, 2 1s, and 2 2s. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there is a 1 in 3 chance that you could just roll no damage. So what it is that if you have like a battle axe that gives you 2 basic damage dice, you have to roll higher than a 2 to get past their defenses. Physical defense. Unless you're playing a character that does magical damage, which Teresa's character, who was playing the Pyromancer, dealt magical damage. Right. So because they have no resistance to magic, that's like, okay, we'll let you take care of them. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and do this. And the thing about it is that there's also a system to pull aggro as well.
Bam.
Yes.
It's how does that work?
Okay, so you'll have every enemy has a stat card, and it will show you in which direction they move and how they attack. So there'll be the main 2 is that you will have enemies that will either move closer to or further away from the character that has aggro. And how aggro works is it's essentially the first character that's in the dungeon. So you kind of have to figure out, okay, which one of us is going to go in first? And then the rest of us will follow. The character that's in there first gets aggro. Okay. And so the character will go in first. The enemies get a turn. That character who gets aggro will get a turn. The enemies get another turn, and then it'll be the next player's turn. Does that make sense? So
Yes, I think so.
So when that next character turn happens, they get the aggro token. So, okay. So with that knowledge in mind, there are certain enemies that will attack whoever has the aggro token. Mm-hmm. And then there are certain enemies that will attack whoever's just closest to them. So what you want to do is that you kind of want to be a little bit advantageous and be like, okay, I know these enemies attack whoever's closest to them, so we're going to send out the guy with the best defense against them. Whereas these are going to be the guys that attack whoever has aggro, so we're going to try to like get them quick. And it's really. I don't want to say it's difficult to explain, but it's like if I had the tabletop here, I could explain it to you a little bit better.
Right. It sounds like one of those games that it's just a little steps to do one single thing. Sounds intense though.
It is, but it also isn't, because like once you kind of pick it up, you really, you really start to understand it. But the thing about it is, even though it's a board game, it's still faithful to the video game. And so
That's
far,
cool.
and so far, the fact that you can't just run in and expect to win, like you have to be smart. You have to know your enemy's like defensive strategies and whatnot, and you kind of have to learn how to get around those.
Right.
But it also plays, excuse me, but it also plays around a party dynamic really, really well. Anyways, so because of the fact that all of our characters were offensive based and none of us had any sort of defensive qualities,
Yeah.
we suffered from that. So we could deal out a lot of damage, but we also took in a lot of damage as well. And it's one of those things that's like, if you have somebody that likes Dark Souls and you kind of have an inkling that they'll like D&D, this is a really good transition to that. Because it still has a lot of the charm of Dark Souls, but it introduces like a party sort of balance and dynamic that to me is very reminiscent of D&D. And it's funny because we were, like I said, we were playing with Teresa and some of her friends, and she asked me, is this going to be like D&D? Do I have to worry about what class I pick? I'm like, nah, it should be fine. And then after we got destroyed, because we got nuked hard, I was like, yeah, we probably should have put more thought into it than not at all. So, nice. But yeah, it's great. It's a lot of fun. The only problem is it's a big investment of time and money. Because it's one of those things where like a normal game's about 2 hours, not even talking about setup, just playing. Mm-hmm. But it's fun. I had so much fun. We're probably gonna play it again, hopefully soon. But yeah, it was great. I loved it. It was awesome.
Nice. So you're coming back to it. So that's a thumbs up from you.
Yes, it's a big thumbs up for me because they also came out with a bunch of expansions, which means which introduces more characters, more weapons, more enemies, and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely want to go back to it. Especially with the knowledge that we have now that, hey, it is going to matter, what class we play and stuff like that. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever want to bring it over or want to play with me, I'm down. I don't know if Kristen will be down for a 5-hour setup, but I'm down.
It also takes up a lot of table space. So you need a big table.
Oh, I see. We can play on the floor like kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. You know what we haven't talked about though? Do you know what we haven't talked about yet?
What's up?
Session highlights. We had one session, 2 sessions actually, right?
Did we? Did we have 2 sessions? Yes,
yeah, I think so. Damn, we're killing it. Yeah, we had 2 sessions between episodes. So, anything fun that you want to highlight?
I will say for the first of the 2 sessions, probably one of the biggest highlights for me would be Small Drax learning how to cook. That's one of them. And the only reason why I say that was not only was that a little bit of fun there, but also because you came back to me saying, I actually learned how to use a knife from that.
Yeah, like the next day I was preparing a Caesar salad for work or whatever, and I'm just cutting lettuce, right? So not big deal. But like, I'm cutting the lettuce like I usually do. I knew about the grip and the blade or whatever, but the fact that you said just point it away from you just a little bit revolutionized my speed.
So that was like, that's it. It had a bit of a gestation period, but that was a highlight to me just for that part. But I would also say probably the party dealing with Victor, and also just the general shenanigans of them taking a really long piss to go into the attic was probably a highlight for me.
Yes.
A personal highlight was me was having the Baron move around the house. And so when it got to the point that you went back to the parlor to go talk to Irina and suddenly the Baron was there, you're like,
Yes. And I did what every 90s shows would do to try and try to get the rest of the parties, because the rest of the party was all over the mansion. So like the first thing that came to my mind was just to like start talking really loudly about where I am, what I'm about to do, and with whom. Start screaming.
Yeah, definitely shenanigans unfolded.
Yeah, no, I will have to say that I have to agree with that. That's one of my highlights there. Even though it was me.
As far as the second session goes, I would say, and dadgummit, of course, that the camera didn't catch it, but Vesemir doing the dance to open up. Okay, it wasn't the fact that you did the dance; it was the fact that you didn't even question it. You saw it, you're like, "I'm just going to start dancing," and you just immediately start breaking down, like right then and there. And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yes. So we get to a tower, and it has a big door, whatever. So I go to inspect the door, and Andrew shows us a picture of the door, which has like this like copper plate, circular plate, like almost like a clock, and it has like all these like little figures, and then like an arrow or like a line that goes in between them. And then I realized that each figure is a pose. And the first thing that came to my mind was that episode from The Last Airbender when they do the dragon dance. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, is this a dance? And I just like, I didn't even think I started moving my arms around like the little stick figures. And I just imagine Vesemir just like goes up to the door, doesn't say anything to anybody.
Questions asked.
Nothing. And then just starts dancing, just breaking down. Oh, it was great. But my camera captured me doing weird movements, but it didn't capture my arms. So I look dumb.
But that was the solution. That was exactly what you had to do. And I'm just like, okay.
Oh, that's great. Oh man. No, that was good. Yeah, I think that's for me too. I don't have anything other than those two, because I'm a fucking moron. So I just it could have freaking blown me to pieces, but I did the dance anyways. I would have died proud.
I mean, yeah. Well, you'll find out what could have happened. Anyways.
Okay. Oh man. We're talking about moronic things that happen in the world. And moving away a little bit from tabletop, have you heard anything about what's going on with the Google Stadia?
I have heard they are pushing it a lot, but I haven't heard anything about what's going on with the Stadia. Stadia?
Stadia? I don't know. It sounds like fake sugar.
Yeah, Stevia. The Google Stevia.
Google Stevia. So yeah, so they announced the Google Stadia a while back in E3, and it was supposed to be, it is supposed to be this revolutionary way to play video games. Essentially, you don't have to use your computer power or anything. You just need an internet connection, and then the games will be streamed to your screen, and then it will be there will be no lag, there will be no delay. It will be fantastic. Essentially, Google is doing all the hard work for you. All you need is a Chrome plugin, and then you can do it, right? Big announcements. Get everybody excited about it. But guess what? They just released the games that Stadia is gonna. They just announced the games that Stadia is gonna release with. Do you want to take a wild guess as the size of the library?
The size?
Mm-hmm. Like it's supposed to be. They sold it as you will have access to all the games out there, and it's going to be playable without you having to have a monster PC to do it. And you can do it even from your phone. In
the context of the situation, I will say there's probably, 50, 60, if that?
12. At release date, you will be able to play 12 games. Do you want to hear these games?
Oh my god. I even highballed it for generosity.
You want to hear these games that you'll be able to play? Are you going to be able to play the latest Death Stranding or perhaps Jedi Fallen Order? Nope. You'll be able to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Destiny 2,
Okay.
Some game called Guilt, which I don't know what the hell with a Y. Just Dance 2020, Mortal Kombat 11. Okay, here's the Chiner. Red Dead Redemption 2, which is pretty bum. But then you have Rise of the Tomb Raider, Samurai Showdown, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Thumper, and the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition.
So a quarter of the game's library is Tomb Raider.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you really want to play all the Tomb Raider games, well, then this is your opportunity. Or you can buy them for really cheap online. Now, think about this, though. 12 games at release days. Oh, and you know what's the best part? It won't work in all the Google products they promised. You're gonna have to have bought the specific bundle that they had for release day in order for it to actually work.
So this kind of sounds like false advertising.
Yeah, hardcore. It's really dumb, especially considering that if you have an Xbox account, you can. But actually, if you have a PC and you have Xbox, you can play Xbox games. I think it's like $10 a month, and you have like an insane library of Xbox games or games available on Xbox.
You can do that with the PlayStation too. If you have PS Now, which is their online streaming service, you can play from a computer.
Yeah.
So
like, what is Stadia even bringing to the game? I don't understand. I get it, but like, what is even, happening there?
Do you remember way back when they announced OnLive?
No.
Was supposed to be this thing that was going to be the end of all consoles. It was supposed to be the alpha and omega of consoles. And essentially what it was that it was a box.
I remember it, yes.
That you like stream video games from and whatnot. You would never need a PlayStation or an Xbox or anything like that ever again. And nobody even knows what it is now.
Yep, I remember. I just Googled it and I saw the logo and I remember it. Yep, I remember this.
I very strongly feel like Google Stadia is going to go that way.
Very fast, dude. And they're not doing a good job with PR either. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It doesn't look good. Especially because it's Google. They should have launched with like a really great library of games.
All the games.
But 12, yeah. Like something impressive that will be like, oh, that's worth it. Like, no, it's not. Like, man. Anyways, but that's just something I wanted to bring up because it's just blowing my mind that Google is. This is just why? Why are you doing this? You could have done so much better.
Now, just to be clear, is this because I really am not sure what this is? Is this like their version of like the Steam market or something like this, or
no.
Like what exactly?
No. It's video games on demand. Its own life, like you said.
So it is a streaming service.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And for what I hear, you also have to buy the games. So you pay a monthly fee for the streaming service, and then you have to buy the games. So you don't even own the games either.
So why? That sounds dumb.
It's so dumb. People were hype, and even the people that I knew that were actually excited about it are starting to freak out. Because and you know what's the other thing? They messed up their shipments too. Apparently, not everybody's gonna get their pre-orders. It's gonna take a long time for everybody to get their pre-orders.
Wow, this does not sound like. No, I'm already turned off from it. Like,
I was never excited about it, but it just makes me happy.
Well, because I knew what it was, because when they announced it kind of set like the gaming world on fire, where like a lot of people were like, oh man, this is going to be it. Like, this is going to be the console breaker, kind of a thing. And clearly not.
Yep. Well, yeah.
Swing and a miss.
Yeah. But just like Stadia's days are numbered, so is our time for today's episode.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us. We're having our 4th episode. So excited. We should have our new website up by the time this goes live. So if you go to atalkofopportunity.com, you should be able to access all of our podcasts. Also on iTunes and Spotify. But
unlike the Stadia, we will be coming back.
Yes, we will. We have a a lot of crap to talk about. If you guys want to see us live on twitch.tv, we'll be doing very good at actually doing weekly games. So if you go to twitch.tv/AToO Opportunity, you'll be able to see us live. I stream gameplay of right now Death Stranding and the Outer Worlds, but then on Wednesdays, more often than not, if not some other days, we do our live sessions of D&D. To stay up to date on which days we're going to be streaming, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at AToO Opportunity. And Twitter too.
Even if you can't catch the live streams, you can always watch the archives, the session highlights, or you can just go to the YouTube page and where we have the entire streams uploaded there. So yeah, it's definitely, you're not going to be able to miss out on anything.
Yes, but live we can talk to you on chat, which is kind of cool because we're living the future now.
Well, I won't, because I'll be too busy focusing.
The rest of us will. So thank you guys for listening. Follow us, share us with your friends who like D&D, and stay tuned for our next episode. And you guys have a wonderful 2 weeks or so, and I hope the holidays treat you well. Happy Thanksgiving and Black Friday today.
Yeah, be sure to survive Black Friday.
Don't get yourself killed. It's not worth it. You can always do Cyber Monday.
Yeah, don't. If look at a TV, you have to ask yourself: is it worth getting trampled over for?
True.
Yeah. Answer's always no. Answer's always no.
That's true. All right, you guys have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.